It starts with hope, a sense of possibility, that a young stallion, a proven champion in his own right, can pass on his greatness and build a legacy of his own. That possibility can be fostered by careful planning, preparation, commitment, and passion.
It all doesn't start when you start saddling. It starts way before that, when they're young.
Until the time comes for the sons and daughters of that young sire to enter the arena and prove their worth. For one-time Pepto, that time has arrived. In the first showing of the very first full crop of one-time Pepto at the 2010 NCHA Futurity, one-time royalty led the way with an unparalleled performance. By the Matthews Stallion one-time Pepto, this 2007 colt is out of the 1996 NCHA Reserve Futurity Open champion Royal Serena Bell, whose offspring earnings have already topped $437,000. In 2.5 minutes that would make history, one-time royalty and Lloyd Cox rose to the challenge, laying down a credit-earning run that would prove unsurpassed in the history of the NCHA Futurity. Cutting smooth and strong, the pair held a second cow that would secure them the highest marks for degree of difficulty. Then finished with a smooth third cut that would seal their triumph. The result was a stunning 230 score.
It's amazing. I mean, that horse just kind of rose to the occasion. You know, he was good on every cow I cut him. The first and second, the second cow was scary. When I got off it, I knew that things were pretty good at that point. You know, if I could just finish right there on something after that, because it took a lot to hold that cow, and he was very good.
For Jeffrey and Sherry Matthews, the winning run of their colt one-time royalty in the open division with that record-setting score of 230 was only half the story at the 2011 NCHA Futurity. In the non-pro, another one-time Pepto son, one Rockin' Pepto, snagged the championship as well, making the Matthews Stallion the first ever to sire both the open and non-pro champions at a single NCHA Futurity, and all in his first full crop. In an impressive performance for any stallion, but simply amazing for a freshman stud, one-time Pepto had 38 sons and daughters entered into the 2010 NCHA Futurity, with 10 advancing to the finals, 4 in the open final alone. In addition to the Open Futurity champion one-time royalty, Clint Allen rode Blue one time to an 8th place finish in the Open Finals for Dave and Georgia Husby. Blue one time is out of the legendary mare Quentin Blue, an earner herself of more than $609,000 in NCHA competition. Paul Hansma also rode Nod and Smile Baby for Matthews Cutting Horses to an open finalist position. Nod and Smile Baby is the daughter of the Matthews dual ray mare Reminiscing, an earner of $74,000 in the NCHA show pen. Rounding out the 2010 NCHA Futurity finalists sired by one-time Pepto was Spooky's Time to Shine, ridden by Steve Olaf for Rod Rock Quarter Horses. Spooky's Time to Shine was the top seller at the 2009 NCHA Futurity 2-year-old select sale and is out of San Starlight, a mare by Grace Starlight, with offspring earnings nearing $1 million. For the Matthews, the success of one-time Pepto at the 2010 NCHA Futurity represented more than a paycheck or a trophy. It was validation of their faith in one-time Pepto and their dedication to a program of select breeding and slow, careful preparation of the offspring.
I started all those horses myself and brought them along slow before they went to the trainers, which I believe in. I've been doing it 40 years. And I firmly believe in that. It's just like teaching a child to walk. You got to go real slow, and you got a foundation. I really believe in that, and that's where we build our program on. I just believe in that, doing it real slow, you know, and I've been very lucky to work on good horsemen when I was a kid to learn all that, you know, and it's a lot of hard, slow work, but, you know, I believe in it. It's just the way.
If further validation were needed, it came when one-time Pepto crossed the $1 million mark in offspring earnings more quickly than any sire in NCHA history. Perhaps it should be no surprise he was named AQHA's 2010 Freshman Sire of the Year.
As a general rule, those young stallions, second and third crops are usually better than the first ones. And for that horse to have the open champion and the non-pro champion his first crop is pretty phenomenal.
And one-time Pepto is not just making a mark in cutting either. Remember 2010 NRCHA Open Reserve Snafflebit Futurity champion one-time Ray J? Well, meet Moonstruck Pepto, 2011 NRCHA Open Reserve Snafflebit Futurity champion. Ridden by Boyd Rice, this son of one-time Pepto is out of the highbrow cat mare Moonstruck Cat, an NCHA non-pro Futurity Top 10 finalist with offspring earnings in excess of $240,000. And making the performance of this young stallion even more impressive, another son of one-time Pepto, one-time Nick out of the mare Lady Reminick, carried Eric Freitas to the non-pro Reserve Snafflebit Futurity Championship. And in the NCHA's early 2011 Futurities, one-time Peptos are proving this sire is no one-hit wonder. Here's New Cuttin' Town, ridden by Phil Rapp to the Open Championship at the 2011 El Rancho Futurity. Also at El Rancho, 11-year-old Andrew Viola rode his mare One Rowdy Kitty to the Non-Pro Derby Reserve Championship, as well as the Derby Amateur Championship. One Rowdy Kitty was one of the 2 top sellers at the 2009 NCHA Select Sale, both by one-time Pepto, who also sired the second highest-selling 2-year-old in NCHA history. In 2011, the high-selling yearling colt at the NRCHA Select Yearling and Broodmare Sale was a one-time Pepto. Good God Almighty out of the mare Love 'em and Lena, an own daughter of Smart Little Lena and earner of $114,000 in NRCHA competition. One-time Pepto himself set a record in the sales ring, purchased by Jeffrey Matthews as a yearling at the Western Bloodstock NCHA Futurity Sale for a then record price of $380,000. Jeffrey Matthews had been searching for just the right horse to be the cornerstone of his breeding program and found him in one-time Pepto.
He gave you the feeling that you could hold him about anything you put in front of him, you know, and there's not many horses that do that. I mean, he just got to a point to where he was that smart, that confident about everything he was doing that, you know, you almost felt invincible.
In a little more than a year of competition with Matt Gaines in the saddle, one-time Pepto accumulated more than $331,000 in NCHA earnings. This striking son of Pepto Boonsmall out of one-time Soon by Smart Little Lena started his successful show career as a semi-finalist in the 2004 NCHA Futurity before launching an incredible 4-year-old season. In 2005, he had a variety of top finishes, including the NCHA Super Stakes Open Championship. He was also reserve champion at the Pacific Coast Cutting Horse Association Stakes and the Suncoast Open Derby. In 2006, one-time Pepto won the Abilene Spectacular as well as the Augusta Open Classic, where he scored a remarkable 2:29. While the payoff in the sport of cutting comes in the Coliseum with the crowd cheering or under the bright lights of the sales ring, the investment in the career of this successful young stallion began a world away in the quiet fields of North Carolina, where 3 generations back, the Matthews family built an agricultural tradition that began with pork and poultry, but now produces some of the finest performance horses in the world.
My grandfather was born and raised here in Sampson County, North Carolina, eastern North Carolina. His family was farming background.
Building on a foundation of old-fashioned virtues like hard work and attention to detail, Matthews Cutting Horses is dedicated to nurturing future generations of horses with the pedigree, conformation, and preparation to revolutionize the Western performance horse industry. Matthews Cutting Horses is a stunningly beautiful facility where quality and concern for the welfare of the breeding and young stock, as well as efficiency in the everyday work of starting and training colts, are carefully blended with an appreciation of aesthetics that creates a view worthy of a postcard virtually everywhere you turn. As always, the well-being of these equine athletes will be paramount, with a full-time equine manager present to oversee the health of all the horses in training.
I like to be out there. I'm very hands-on. I handle my babies. I'm there for every foaling. The next day I handle them just a couple times just to get in there with them. We start leading them 2 to 3 weeks old, and they're handled, and they're not afraid to be handled. It just makes things easier down the road. They get that trust there, and it's a whole lot easier to mess with one if they're hurt or sick. And it's that much less stressful on them and me.
The 2-year-olds are started under saddle in a strategic and time-tested system.
You've got to do the foundation and not skip processes. A lot of wet saddle blankets, and they take it at one step at a time when they're slow. But our goal at Matthews Cutting is to have one of the better 2-year-old programs, because I'm convinced that's a weak link in our industry, and frankly I see that as an advantage for us because we do put so much emphasis handling the horses as well, doing it from the time they're a baby to as we spend a lot of time on the ground before we ever step on a horse. Ground drive them, we'll hobble them, saddle them, and just make them be mannered, be horses. There's no quick fix, it's just a slow process. It takes time, but when it starts working, it's very rewarding. And then we do ride them. They're not scared. We just go out and put a lot of miles on them. All the horses go through our programs before they go to any name brand trainer. It's ready to go on cattle or have already been started on cattle before we will release it. I will not release a horse till he's been through our program.
When they're judged ready, these young sons and daughters of one-time Pepto are carefully graduated into some of the finest training programs in the country.
They've all had this similar outlook about stopping and moving with that cow. And when they want to do that to start with, things certainly seem to go better.
You want to look at them, they draw your attention to them. And then the more you watch them and see what they have all been doing, you know, and what they can do in their maneuvers, just makes it stand out even more. It's one thing to ride in there on a real pretty horse, but it's another to, you know, have one that's, you know, very pretty and, you know, talented as well.
I think that they're real cowy and real athletic and real pretty horses. You can really he stamps them the other way.
I think the amount of thought and effort and the work that he's put into the promotion, all of those things combined are gonna pay back huge.
One-time Pepto, a remarkable stallion with a world-class pedigree and performance record, backed by an unexcelled program of selective breeding, careful preparation, and top-flight training, proven successful in the first 2 foal crops by 2 NCHA Futurity champions, 3 NRCHA Snafflebit Futurity Reserve champions, and a host of top sellers in some of the industry's most prestigious sales.
There's part of that to do with the fact that a lot of really good mares were bred to that horse, and that's because of the industry's trust for Jeffrey. You know, to promote a stallion, number one, you've got to have a good horse. You've got to have a horse that the public likes. But they've also got to have a lot of confidence in the people behind the horse. You've got to have confidence that there'll be a business plan, and you've got to have confidence that those people then will carry out that plan. And I think that's the reason that all those good mares came that first year. If he does like the other big-time horses in our industry, and his colts get better over the next 3 or 4 years, goodness gracious, I don't know what we'll say.
A sophomore sire, already a proven producer of champions with the best yet to come. The dawning legacy of one-time Pepto. His time has just begun.